How's it going, guys? Still May 10th, 2:36 p.m. here on the East Coast. So, this next vlog will be titled "It's Darkest Before the Light." In the military, they teach you something whenever I was going through some training, and it's just kind of common sense as well. But I thought of it in more of a practical application in the military, and then a life application outside of the military. So, when you're getting ready to attack an enemy, an age-old theory is that they would wait until right before sunrise to attack because that's when they thought, that's when it was darkest, because the moon is setting at that point and the sun hasn't yet began to rise. So a majority, with pretty much all of the light being out of the picture, it seems to be very dark. And to metaphorically put this into perspective, it would start a new day. So the moon would be setting, the sun would be rising, and it's always darkest right before the light. And when I try to mentor people here, I let them know that their life could be crumbling. It could be falling down. It could be shambles. It could really be devastating. But once you reach that bottom point, you can only go up from there. And it leads to a load of experience and makes you a much stronger person. You may not appreciate the circumstances surrounding the darkness, but it is what drives you and what sends you sometimes into greatness. And you'll notice sometimes you can become friends with the darkness and use it to your advantage. If you know, like I know that my body's going through this phase right now where I can't handle the necessary workload anymore that it used to handle. My bones are getting a little bit more brittle and my joints are starting to hurt more than ever. But I know that's because of the exercise that I continue to do, so I'm just changing up my exercises and not doing such a repetitive stuff. Going to start switching it up and doing some different type of exercise, but at least continued on my same pace of doing exercise here in the future, at least one exercise a day, or average one exercise a day, even when I am sick. But the metaphor of it being darkest before the light is I know that once you encounter these difficulties and you're headed down this spiral of what I would call badness, I guess for lack of better words, that right before it goes into oblivion, you tend to rebound and start making some better decisions and really start to see the sunrise on the other side, and you start to see the light, and all your hard efforts pay off. And that's just a visceral reminder of life circumstance. Sometimes things can seem so dark and like there is no end in sight, that there is no light at the end of the tunnel, and there always is. And if you have that methodology that it's always darkest before the light, you know that sometimes you have to go a little bit further and reach a little bit into that darkness in order to pull yourself out of it. And sometimes I don't like to dabble into this too much, but sometimes the people who stay in that darkness tend to develop a little bit of depression. I've been a victim of it myself, and you can't stay in that zone too long because you have to start finding the silver linings in life. And if you don't, then you end up living in that depressed world for the unforeseeable future. But if you start noticing the great things that are happening around you, and maybe change some circumstances, change some decisions, some people, some places around you, there can be sometimes great things that come of that. So the takeaway from this vlog is know that it's always darkest before the light, and that there always is a light at the end of the tunnel. And you can always find the light. You just have to change some decisions around your certain circumstance and know that sometimes when you think it can't get any worse, sometimes it actually does. And I'm not oblivious to that realism, but the moment it stops being that way is a conscious mindset, a conscious decision that you have made, that you don't want to start, or you're tired of being in that darkness and you just want to move over to the other side of being in the light. And sometimes it's a matter of work effort. I've mentored some people that have just said that I'm trying everything, I'm doing everything I possibly can, and I'm not receiving any love, any support, anything. Why should I keep doing this? And then I reinforce them that it's always darkest before the light, to keep continuing, even though that you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't know what good is going to come of it. But if you keep trying to move forward and get creative with new ideas, things will eventually start to happen. And as many times as I've said it is as many times as it's happened. And those people that just continue to strive and continue to push forward end up finding the light eventually, because they don't give up on searching for it. And the people that do give up on searching for it end up staying in that darkness. And that's not a positive place to be. That's a very dark world that not a lot of people like to be in. And if you consciously know that you don't want to be there, then you'll do everything possible to stay out of that place. But sometimes the circumstances you can't control that will lead you down that dark rabbit hole. And it's the choices that you make and your willingness to want to be able to succeed and to be able to move forward and drive forward that will allow you to find that light at the end of the tunnel. So that'll be it for the third vlog for today. I got one more to put up here shortly. I appreciate you guys watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.